Hi, paper crafters. Welcome. My name is Joanne Rogers, and today we are going to make a beautiful card with the Sparkling Snowflakes bundle. Let's get started. This is the Sparkling Snowflakes bundle, and in the holiday catalog in 2023, this is when the bundle is available. And it's great to buy it as a bundle because you get 10% off when you buy them together. So these are both still currently available at the time that I am recording this, which is November 7th, 2023. And we are going to make a great card with this today. So what do I like about this stamp set? I like a lot about it, actually. I like the greetings, that it looks like our own handwriting. I love that it's a two-step stamp, meaning that you can put the detailed image over top of the solid image, or you can use them both individually by themselves. So you get a lot more mileage out of this kind of stamp set than you do over one that is, say, just one that you color in. So I really like that aspect of it. And of course, I also love that we're able to match it with a punch that is a little bit different punch. So this is a tag topper punch, meaning that we are going to create a little 2-inch tag that has a great topper on it that actually looks like that. So we're going to start by stamping onto our tag. And I've pulled in my Stampin' Pierce mat and just a piece of small grid paper so that I can stamp onto this with my photopolymer. So photopolymer doesn't have any give or rubber or foam in it, so we need to add a little bit of rubber or foam. We're using boho blue, and we're only using one color of ink, and we are going to stamp all over, but the first thing we're going to do is stamp the words. And that's because we want our words to have room once we start stamping the other items. So I'm going to try and get this straight, and I use my grid lines to help me, and I'm going to put it pretty much in the middle. Okay, so that's May the Seasons Sparkle, which is one of the most popular stamps in this set. And now we're going to stamp the larger one. So there are 3 sizes, and I've chosen the middle one and the small one for this card. So we are going to stamp off in order to remove that first bit of color, and we're going to stamp so that we have a lighter image. And that just gives us a little bit more life to our stamp so that we can get light and dark. And now I'm going to go in and put some dark right with that so that we get some variety there as well. I think maybe I'll put this last guy down here. Okay, so there we have our stamped tag. I'm going to just close that for a moment. I'm going to now punch it. So I'm going to open up the punch, and when we have our punches like this, they come folded closed, and you have to just open it up like this. And we're going to put one whole side all the way in as far as it will go. I'm going to turn it over and make sure that my paper is right to the end, and then I'm going to punch. And this one has lots of little bits that go shooting out of it. But what you're left with is a beautiful punched out item. And now we're going to do the same with the other side so that we have a little bit different look to it, and it's not going to have a flat bottom or a flat top. So same thing, we're just going to punch it again. I always like to punch, if I can, upside down. It just seems to work really well. So there we have our tag, a little bit different tag. Put it here so you can see it. I'm just going to get rid of these bits here. So now we're going to move on and do the card. So the card that I'm using, the color I'm using is the same. It's boho blue. And you can get all the measurements for this on my blog for making this card, which is a pretty simple card. So I'm going to just firm up my fold with my bone folder. So instead of stamping my stamps onto the card to create a background, instead I'm going to use a stencil. So these stencils are in the Abundant Beauty decorative masks, and you may have seen them a lot like this. So creating the sunflower, and this is an easel card that I have, and they are just beautiful, just gorgeous like this. But there's some other stencils in there. There is a set of leaves in there. Let's put it here, a set of leaves that you can see there. There is also herringbone there, and we have our snowflakes. So I'm going to use the snowflakes to create a background on our card. So I'm just going to open it up because I want that background just to be on this part of the card. So I'm just going to place this on here, use my blending brush and use some of my boho blue ink. And I am going to put this on top of my grid paper because I want to tap into my ink and then I want to tap off so that I get some of the most intense color off. And then I'm just going to swirl it right over top of the snowflakes. Now I'm just holding this with my hand. You can actually tape it down if you would like. I'm just getting a little bit of color. I'm not worried too much about it moving because I just want a little bit of color, just a hint of color. And again, this is optional. You don't have to do this, but it just gives a little bit of life to the background. Okay, so that's your pretty snowflake background. Now what I want to do is I want to add something a little bit different to this. I want to add some gold leafing or gilded leafing, and I'm going to do that onto the front of the card. And in order to do that, I'm going to use my Versamark stamp pad and I'm going to use my embossing buddy. I have to use my embossing buddy here because this ink may not be completely dry. So I'm just going to put that everywhere, all over top. I'm going to clean off my stamp using my simple chamois. I'm going to clean off that larger one. Try and get that really nice and clean so there's no more blue anywhere. And then I'm going to stamp into my Versamark and I'm going to stamp just one snowflake and I'm going to stamp it right here. And it's going to have a tone on tone look as well. Versamark does that. It's going to be a little bit dark, but then we're going to sprinkle on some heat and stick powder. Now the heat and stick powder comes in a little jar, but I put it into just a container from the dollar store. And I'm just going to open this up. And it looks sort of like white embossing powder, but it isn't. It has a special property where it goes on just like embossing powder in the pellets. I'll sprinkle it on. It'll stick to that Versamark. Now, if it sticks anywhere else, like it did here, I'm going to take that off with my brush, just a dry paintbrush, because I don't want it to stick anywhere else. My embossing buddy didn't work as well as it could have because I had just finished embossing or coloring this background. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, just give that a good flick and hopefully it'll go away from anywhere except where that snowflake is. So now it sticks like that, but when we heat it up, it has a special property where it turns into a stickiness. So I'm going to do that with my heat tool and get it hot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to point it at the snowflake, and as soon as you see it turn from that powdery to sort of almost a bit shiny, then you move on, because otherwise you'll take away the stick. So you can see just how quickly that actually did stick. So I'm going to take this out of the way right now. And I'm going to pull in my gilded leafing embellishment. So again, I keep mine in a little container, but here is how it comes. And I've had this for a long time, and you can see just how much I have left. Now you don't want to sneeze, you don't want to huff, you don't want to breathe really heavy on this because it is really, really fine. They are little pieces of gold flakes and they will get everywhere. So what I do is I take out some of those, put them into my container. Again, be very careful when you take your lids off. And then I'm just going to take the flakes and I'm going to pat them on top of that snowflake. And it's going to stick to where that powder is. This is very, very fine stuff and really very, very pretty. It's got a gorgeous shine to it. And so we're just going to pat that down. Now you can just go over top and try and get some of the larger pieces off if you want, just with your finger. But what I use to actually burnish it on there is just a soft paintbrush that I've had in my stash of brushes. It's nice, soft, it's not a bristly one, and I'm just going to burnish it on. And wherever the stick was not, where there was no stick, I guess I should say that differently, then I'm able to lift up that gold. And what we're going to be left with is a snowflake. So I'm not pressing especially hard, but I'm not really pressing really softly either. And this is a pretty detailed stamp. So you do just want to be a little bit careful with your burnishing. So I can see that I didn't have quite as much stick right there. So either I didn't have as much powder there, or it just heated a little bit too much, okay? But you can get a beautiful gold snowflake that way. So I'm going to close this back up again. And now we're going to just do the inside. So just to decorate it up just a little bit more, I've cut this so that's a little bit shorter on the top, and I'm just going to put a piece of our luster paper, and this comes in our 5 in color colors. So here they are here, all 5 of them, and these are the in colors for this year 2023 through to 2025, and it is Wild Wheat, Boho Blue, Moody Mauve, Pebbled Path, and Copper Clay. And so we are using the same color just so it has a little bit of a glisten to it. It's not going to be really standouty. It's just going to have a little something to make you look a little closer. So I've just taken a little bit of my liquid glue, run that all along from the bottom to the top, and lay this down. You can give yourself a tiny little bit of a line if you want, or you can put it right up to the edge. Totally up to you. Turn that over. I usually, just as a tip, leave myself a little bit longer than 5.5. And that's in case my card happens to be just a smidge longer than 5.5. And then it's just a tiny little clip cut off to make it the same size. We are going to stamp this guy. We're going to put this guy on the inside. We can also stamp that with a couple snowflakes. Bring in our Stampin' Pierce mat again, and I'm going to do solid. I'm going to stamp off so that we have light and dark. Okay, and that's what we're just going to put onto the inside. I'm going to glue that down with just a little bit of my seal right at the top. Rather than using up a little bit more seal than you have to, you can just put this right down on top. Try and get that sort of in the middle. So then we have that part to the card, and then we're just going to do one more step here. We're going to add a little bit of color, a little bit of shadowing around the outside of our tag. So you don't have to do this, and I'll show you an alternative where we don't have that, but you can just get a little bit more subtlety to the card by doing this. So I'm not going to make it completely colored. I'm just going to leave it white in the middle and just have a little bit of the blue going all the way around. And that's just with my blending brush again. So I'm going to add some dimensionals to the back. And that is just going to go onto the card over top of the gold snowflake. And then I'm just going to add, for a few embellishments, the festive pearls. With my Take Your Pick tool, I'm just going to pick up some of the gold ones. And I think maybe we will just put it over here. And there's no magic to this. I'm probably just going to go for, I think I'm going to try and just go for 3 on this one, just to have it in a bit of a triangle. And there's your card. So you can get a lot of beautiful effects with that gilded leafing. And I hope that you give it a try. If you like this project and you would like to see a lot more like it, join my email list. You can do that over on my blog at www.designwithjo.ca. Thanks very much. Have a great paper crafting day. Bye-bye.